DeVore Capital, DeVore Live, May 21st, 2025. We got the whole crew. Everyone's together. Feels good to have Wes back.
Back in town.
Wes has just been so busy, so we had to go without you, and it hasn't been the same. So, welcome back to the seat.
Sweet. I appreciate that.
Hearts in the comments.
Hearts. Give some love there.
Yeah, man. No, let's do it.
I missed it. It's I like the jaw jacking back and forth, and trying to find good events to talk about and do some fun stuff and catch that little update. So yeah, I missed you guys.
All right, well, welcome back. Well, DeVore Live, if you did not know, it's all things Jacksonville business, real estate, and life. Man, we got some nice fits. Let's do a fit check. You got the yellow for the spring. Got the gray hat. If y'all didn't know, I'm actually wearing the original OG DeVore Capital shirt. So this thing is worth worth some money.
It's the only one left in existence.
You got Will has the upgraded. Wes, you got
my white one's the upgraded. I think
You got the valuetainment.
You got the valuetainment. You got the SLS swag.
Yeah, I got some PBD going on today. Some valuetainment.
Yeah.
Ty Sheen off camera, you don't see her, but she got the purple tint. She got the purple shirt representing the DeVore Capital colors.
Yep.
But how's everyone doing? Everyone feeling good? We're trying to stay warm. You know, we got 3 fans going on in here.
It is
We got
hot.
the swamp
Yeah,
cooler, we got
yeah.
the overhead
They
fan,
got
we
the
got another fan.
AC out or something. Really bad time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Florida
Going
is
to Walmart
scorching.
after this. I'm buying a fan.
Yeah,
It's hot.
for sure. It's hot.
Florida is scorching. We had that little bit of season of rain, then it got to like 1,000,000 degrees. It's been almost 100. I think there's some rain coming next week. I'm
Is
looking
it?
forward to that. Yeah,
hope.
but it's one of those things like you like look ahead at the weather, and you're like, oh man, there's some rain, and then it's like psych, no rain. You know, the weather patterns are going to change, but hopefully we get some relief. But everyone feeling good? Did anyone catch the NBA conference finals? I know your team
I watched
got
it.
knocked
I watched
out.
it until the last day of the Nuggets. Now I don't really care and won't even know who wins when they're
Yeah.
done. So, yeah, poor Nuggets. I mean, they had it. It sucks. They had a chance to win. I think OKC's probably got a chance to take it all.
Yeah.
I mean, they got good D, but Nuggets still could have beat them 3 out of the games. It should have been over. They just they got to get rid of some players. It's time for that team to revamp.
Yeah. Who you think?
Michael Porter Jr.'s got to go.
Oh, for real?
He's awful, and
Wow.
Westbrook has got to go.
Man.
Those 2 guys
Yeah.
are awful for the team. They got no structure. They got no way to play team. And MPJ. He said, "Oh, my shoulders hurt." Whatever. He's throwing up bricks, airball bricks, not just bricks, but airballs. You know, Westbrook's throwing it away. He's old. He's tired. Time for that team to go. And I would get rid of Murray too, honestly, because he's still valuable. They could bring a couple strong players in. Got to keep Jokic. You know, he's their best player. He's still got some good years in him.
Yeah.
But that team's got a little work to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Jokic definitely is top.
Jokic
top
is
5.
probably the best player in the league, to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
honest. You know, he's that good. He's that elite. But yeah, no. But the first game last night, Thunder and Timberwolves.
Who won that?
Thunder.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, it was
See?
a
There you
tight
go.
game, you know, first half. But man, that D from the Thunder just like swarmed on them, and then they kind of broke it open, and I think it was like almost a 20-point win. But the main event is tonight. My
Yeah.
Knicks.
You should have made it.
Game
The
1,
main
Eastern
event.
Conference Finals.
Oh,
The
boy.
Knicks
Yeah.
are back. They play the Pacers at home.
Yeah.
We got Jalen Brunson against Halliburton, and a lot of good matchups. Cat versus Miles Turner. We got Siakam versus Bridges. This should be a good game. But I got the Knicks winning it all right now.
I think for NBA in general, one thing, if OKC wins, it's incredible for small markets, right? You know what I mean? I think that'd be phenomenal. If the Knicks win, man, it's almost, and I hate to say it because I hate the Lakers, but when the Lakers are good, like the NBA is better. You know what I mean? And so with the Knicks resurgence, if they can win it, man, I think NBA now with the Luka and LeBron stuff that's going on, with the Knicks resurgence, with the potential trade of Giannis, I ain't going to attempt his last name, Giannis to Golden State and the trade rumors, man, I think this offseason is going to be phenomenal. But if the Knicks can take it, I think NBA ratings it's going through the roof for sure.
Knicks are starving for a championship.
Yeah.
It's been my childhood team for a long time, and man, all the heartaches in the 90s. That's why I became a Knicks fan, is because I just never rode with like the best player. So I was never a Michael Jordan fan. I always like kind of like the underdog, and the Knicks were like right there, and they just could never get over the hump. I know they went to the finals twice in that about a 6-year
During the
span.
Ewing years, right?
Yeah.
When Ewing and
Yep.
yeah.
And then now that they're back, and you know, New York is starving for a basketball championship. You know, they win in they win in MLB with the Yankees, they win in football with the Giants. You know, they win in everything. But man, basketball is where it needs to happen, for sure. So I'm excited for it.
Let's do it.
We got Florida teams in hockey
Yeah,
finals.
Panthers.
Yeah,
Panthers.
Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they might run
Yeah.
it back.
You know,
Yeah.
I know we don't talk about a lot of ice in Florida, but you know we do have the Panthers.
Yeah.
We got it indoor.
Yeah.
in the hockey finals, the NHL,
Which is
so
super
that's
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
How old is the Panthers?
I don't know.
At
Yeah.
least 15 plus
Oh,
years.
You think it's
now.
that
I would-
long?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think-
yeah. They were like nothing for a while. Then all of
Yeah.
a sudden they
for sure.
built this contender. So
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen in all sports. You know, you can just be a bottom dweller. Then all of a sudden you make some moves and you start building something over years. And you know they won it all last year. They could repeat this year. But let's get into our first topic, man.
Let's do it.
This is exciting. Did you hear the news? Jacksonville Zoo and Garden is going through a major rebrand.
Yeah.
Major rebound.
Major rebound. So the major rebrand, they are changing the name. You know how they're changing it? They're adding a word. Jacksonville Zoo and Botanical Gardens.
Botanical.
It's a big thing. You know, I don't want to. It might sound a little, you know, what's the word? Starts with an S, but
Sarcastic.
sarcastic. Yes, thank you. Thank you for helping me. But this is what Nikki Smith said. So Nikki Smith, she's the zoo's chief philanthropy, marketing officer. So don't think of this as only a new logo. It's a reflection of who we are and where we're going. We're not just a place for animals. We're a thriving botanical garden, a conservation leader, and a hub for education for all ages. They have over 1,000 varieties of plants growing. So a big deal. What do you guys, have you guys been to the zoo recently? What do you guys think of this rebrand? And is it going to make you want to go now even more since they've are championing the botanical aspect of the garden?
I would say this. I know some people who are chronic botanical gardeners. I don't even know if that's a word, but they love, like they go to states. I know they go to states and cities literally just to go check out
the
botanical garden. Actually, a very close friend of mine. They go to Atlanta all the time, and they want one of her stops is I got to go and walk the botanical garden, which is cool. One, two. It depends on how it looks. Listen. If we're just we're throwing some plants in there, like, hey, this is our little thing.
Hey, look at the elephants. Look at the plant.
No, for sure. And I think any type of attraction is just tough because we have Orlando, and that's just the mecca of all things. Like, and so it's hard to have like a show-stopping like attraction. So it would be cool to see what they do with it and to see how we can kind of like develop that for sure for families.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's doing something with it other than just. Right. I love the vision. Right. So hopefully that vision turns into plan and some execution.
Yeah.
We've been, as a family, we've been to the zoo a lot. We got little kids. I enjoy going to the zoo when it's not 1,000 degrees outside. So fall,
once a year.
fall, early spring. I love going. It's fun. You hop on the train, go around, see the animals. It's a good time. However, you got to do more than just add a word into the name because they it hasn't grown much since I was a kid, which was a long time ago now. I think the last time we were there, it's probably been about a year. We had annual passes to the zoo. You know,
you're a real deal.
So yeah, you get the passes. It's a good deal. It's something you can do, inexpensive thing for the family. You go periodically. They were updating the gorilla exhibit at that time. So, and I kind of saw where they were going with it. So that was probably the biggest change to the zoo in 20 years. Looks cool, you know, but you know they need to do a little bit more. Especially, I'm not going in July. It's just too hot.
Yeah, there's no reason. It's too hot.
You know, like you're gonna spend the day. Most of the concessions, they're outside. You know, it's just not. There is some inside, but it's just not comfortable, and it's small. You know, so if you go on a busy day, yeah, you're grabbing a picnic table outside, and it's 1,000 degrees, and it's just, you know. So I think you can make it more entertaining. I think to attract people to come and want to spend the day.
Yeah,
so.
I've only been to the zoo twice. I went there for trick or treating. So when my kids were younger, I'd never let them do trick or treating. We just don't do Halloween, and just for something to do. Because, you know, they obviously want to do something because everyone else, I remember, like, they had a thing there. Obviously, it was a trick-or-treating thing. So, but the other time I went there was actually for a wedding. Did you know you can get married at the zoo?
Did not know that.
Yeah, you can get married at the zoo. Okay. My sister actually got married at the zoo. And it was an awesome wedding. Like, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but they do it, like, at dusk. So they got married in October, I believe. And this is when I think the jaguars are like nighttime, like, you know, feline animals, whatever you call them, right? So they get more active at night. Sure. So you start hearing them like growl, or it could have been the speakers just making fake growls or whatever. But the wedding was actually right at the jaguar exhibit.
That's cool.
So yeah, they do weddings at the zoo, and I've been there. My sister got married cool. there. Yeah. But other than that, man, you know, I remember going to the DC Zoo a lot. I don't know if anyone's been to that one. I used to go to a conference that was hosted right next to the DC Zoo. Marriott Warman Park is where they had it, and we would always go to the zoo like right afterwards. And I know zoos were catching some flack for a while. Like a lot of animals were like dying and everything. I don't know if that was like a trend that was happening here in Jacksonville, but like I remember that was like a big thing a few years ago, and like everyone was like, well, what's going on with these things? I don't know if it was, I'm not going to say because I don't want this video taken down. They're getting some type of shot or something. But anyways, all right. Awesome stuff, man.
For sure.
So let's get into the core of what we cover in this podcast. So I said, DeVore Live is all things Jacksonville business, real estate, and life. And, it's sponsored by DeVore Capital Group. So we're actually all part of that organization where we do everything from roofing to real estate to the development, general contracting, you name it. So we try to bring articles that are relevant to, those industries and services that we provide and how it affects the local community. So the first article I want to bring up, and we got a video. It's a U.S. senator. He grills Allstate over its claims practices. So I want us to react to it. I actually want to play the video. So Taishina, if you can cue that up right now, let's play like the first 3 minutes, and then I want to get everyone's take on it because it's a pretty awesome exchange.
Let me just start with you, Mr. Fiato. So I take it from your statement just apologized to Mr. Vertel and promised to work with him resolve his case. Thank you for that, Mr. Keating. I didn't hear anything to that extent from you, Mr. Fiato. So you think all...
In my statement that I regret that Ms. McGall is unhappy with the...
Yeah, well, that's like saying, I'm sorry you're unhappy, right? That's, I apologize, but I don't apologize. Would you like to apologize to her now? Maybe I just misunderstood her.
I would like to say, is Ms. McGall here?
You go ahead. I'm sure she's watching.
Hi, Ms. McGall. I'd like to say, I want to make sure that we get your claim resolved to your satisfaction. And if there's additional information or things that we can do to continue to work with you, we'll do that.
So I noticed that you said in your written testimony, you just repeated it here. Let me make sure I get this right. I'm going to quote you now. We live and breathe our motto, our customer's worst day needs to be our best. I have to tell you, Mr. Fiato, based on the testimony I've heard today, based on the witness statements I've taken for witnesses, it sounds like to me that it really ought to be opportunity. I mean, we've just heard testimony here, sworn testimony from multiple adjusters that your company ordered them to delete or alter damage estimates to reduce payouts and to make you profits. It sounds to me like you're running a system of institutionalized fraud.
Yeah, that would be incorrect, Senator. That's not what we do.
So you have never ordered, Allstate has never asked an adjuster to change an assessment on their report.
When we review an adjuster's estimate, most often for authority requests, so most adjusters have an amount of financial authority that they can settle claims up to without having to...
Now, wait a minute. That's not what they testified to. That's not what they just testified to. You just heard sworn testimony from multiple adjusters, and they said it happened. One adjuster had only ever worked for you over years in the industry, and he said he was repeatedly directed by you, by your company, Allstate, to change factual findings, to delete material in his reports, to alter his reports, to make them factually incorrect, all with the purpose of driving down the award and padding your profits.
I disagree with this statement.
Well, I have to notice that, your profits have never been better. They're really quite extraordinary. Fiscal year 24, Allstate had $64 billion in revenue. That's 12% above the previous year. You made $4.6 billion in profits. And your CEO, Tom Wilson, last year was paid $26 million. Now, Ms. Miguel can't get her claim paid out, but Tom Wilson, whoever the heck he is, gets $26 million. That's really extraordinary. Do you not have the money to?
It's fun. That guy just gets hammered, which he should.
Sure, absolutely should. And I'm glad finally, our in-house hater of all things insurance company, Wes Deason, he's been calling it organized extortion as long as I've known you, and finally now you got a senator who's sitting there in the midst of a hearing, basically making the same statement. It's unfortunate that it has to get to that level. The homeowner, you have to buy. If you have a mortgage, you have to buy insurance. 100%. You have to. You have no choice in the matter. And you have very little options on who you buy from. And then you have even little more hope that in the event of a catastrophic event, you're actually going to be taken care of. you know, and it's unfortunate. It's sad. Something needs to be done.
I mean, the whole thing about not paying claim, that's obviously a big thing. That's the end result. And granted, you know, so he talked about the Allstate, $64 billion in revenue in 24. The whole casualty market pulled in $169 billion in 2024, which was a 90% jump from the previous year.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
shows a quadruple their 2022 earnings as casualty companies.
Sure.
So, in the midst of the worst wildfires in history, some of the worst hurricanes in history in the last 4 years, everything else, and their profits haven't slowed down at all. Hey, I'm all for companies making their profits and staying in business and everything else. So that's not the whole, you know, conversation. It's that the insurance industry is extremely broken, and it all starts with the way that they write policies. So, you know, they're going to go after them and say, oh, you're not paying claims, and then you're going to get the apologies, and you know, and they'll maybe start paying some claims just to show face or whatever. But for the unsuspecting homeowners that have no clue, which most of us don't, I'm a homeowner, I have insurance. I'll be honest, I've never read my policy. I have no idea what's in it. I know how to handle something if I have a claim or whatever, a whole lot better maybe than some others, but nobody knows what's in their policy. And the way these things are now getting written, the sneaky little things that they're putting in there, half the insurance agents don't even know what the stuff means in there. That's where it all starts, because, you know, if it's in your policy, you're pretty much hosed as far as
100%.
getting any coverage or whatever. And it's only, you know, since now they can't, you know, the whole fraud thing's out there and different stuff. So to not tackle it that way or try to go that angle, they're going to, you know, they're always going to be shaking some senator or congressman's pocket or local politician to always keep trying to hammer down, change things, make it tougher, on and on. They're always going to do that. But where they can go that nobody sees or suspects is within the policy provisions itself, and make these little tweaks and changes of just stuff that you think you're covered, you think you got insurance, you really don't, and your deductibles are horrible, and on and on. That's where I think a major issue is that nobody ever even talks about.
So do you think insurance, you think it's a scam?
Do I think it's a scam?
Do you think it works? Do you think it's capitalist society just making a buck off of a human?
You know, I think in a nature, when somebody needs help, it's good to have some insurance. If what they think, if they've got actual coverage that's going to take care of for something that they've been paying for. So to call something, you know, replacement cost coverage for if something happens and I'm paying for that item to be replaced, if, you know, a flood or if, you know, hurricane or wind or this or that happens, and then to not, you know, what the scam is that it's not just that easy that I just call in and go, oh, my refrigerator line broke and it ruined my floors, and you know, I'm paying for coverage, let's get it fixed. No, it takes takes the act of Congress to, you know, for these things to become a lot easier. That's where I think the scam is. In general, I don't think insurance is technically a scam.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's, you know, I still think it's a good form of legalized extortion to some degree, but, you know, the institutionalized fraud that Howley's talking about is really where it's going, because they can craft so many ways just for the design of figuring out not how to cover something that you've been paying for that you think you're covered for.
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, we've experienced it recently, and I've done it multiple times, where there some carriers, they control the narrative from the beginning, right? When you look at, you know, if 50% of claims are being denied, the what they say is, well, we just we denied them, or we did not pay them because they were under the deductible threshold, right? So they've increased the deductible to high limits in many situations. So if it's a $7,000-8,000 claim, it's being denied because the deductible's 10, or they force the estimate writer to write it as a repair. You know, when it doesn't need a repair, it needs a replacement. So then they're very specific. How do you repair just this? They don't put into account the area around it, especially when you're talking about a roof. To fix this shingle, I have to touch these 6 shingles around it. They don't care about that. What does it cost to fix that shingle? Well, what that does is now it puts a repair estimate together. They look at it. Okay, great. Yep, boom, sounds good. It's underneath the deductible amount. Homeowner's now responsible. So they've done their job. They've reviewed the estimate. They've approved it, but they're not going to pay it because it's under the deductible. But they've forced the estimate writer to write it in such a way where it's never going to get the homeowner what they need.
Well, yeah.
You know, what they needed, this has to be replaced.
Well, that's exactly what happened in this this whole exchange back and forth with this Allstate exec. That this lady lost, big oak tree hit her house, totally crushed her house. Allstate, wastes their time. They bring out one adjuster, then now they got to bring another one, blah blah blah, and then they finally determine. I don't get me wrong, I might have their amount wrong. Maybe $40,000 worth of repairs. Not even remotely close, right? The whole house is just smashed. It's a pancake, and so they bring in independent people. They're at like $500,000, and then they offer to maybe pay a little bit more, and and so they're playing this game at the whole time. This house is crushed. The whole family's displaced.
Right.
Everything else is going on, and they're playing these games. The adjusters themselves, especially independent ones, like this particular guy, the first adjuster, or he had worked for them, for his whole career, and he writes estimates for them. They hire him to go out and write the estimate, make it fair, make it right, whatever. And then somebody that sits behind a desk and a pen all day long just decides nope, for whatever rules that come from higher up, right? That's where the thing gets really ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is that the adjusters aren't even in control, and they're the ones working for the company.
Right.
Yep.
They review it. They have their metrics. It's a for-profit company. They want to make money.
100%.
So they're 100% done now. We've had multiple stories that we've covered of like the biggest offenders. Like once like 70% of claims get denied. Some of them, like I think over half of the major carriers, it's like over 50% denial rate. The thing that's troubling is, the people who are affected where, it's blatant fraud, and for the narrative, because they have so much money. You see these Allstates, you see Peyton Manning on the commercials, you see Flo.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Jamie. These guys are so funny, right? And they're believing like these people are like they're there for you. They're here, and they're not. The quote that he said, "Our customer's bad day, worst day is the company's best day."
Yeah.
We should brand that on a T-shirt when we go out there and we sell our services. Like, hey, homeowner, this is what you're fighting against. They don't have your back. That's why you need someone who can advocate for you with the process similar to ours, with our expertise, with our claims team, who can go to bat and help you get the right amount for the damage that you sustained. Because your provider isn't going to do that. So, let's do that. Let's put them on T-shirts, on hats, and we'll go out and start marketing.
Yeah, they can. We talked about it off camera. 2024 Hurricane Debbie. 77% of the claims were denied. The vast majority of those were denied because of flood. Well, what caused the flood? The hurricane. Outside of the hurricane, it doesn't flood. There isn't excess water, and these people are not displaced. Their homes are not destroyed, and you're not required to buy flood when you're not in a flood area, but you are required to have wind, wind, rain, storm, like natural disaster, catastrophe. That's why I did not plan for this. Nobody did. And they deny all of these people. And it's terrible because the average person doesn't have 2 weeks worth of income sitting in a savings account, much less, full replacement cost of their home. That's why you pay the extra. That's why cost of living and all of the the affordability metrics that we talk about often is much higher. Like, okay, I have to pay for this. So I really hope that it's there when I need it because I can't afford to do it myself.
And they know the market that helps all the homeowners out when they are in trouble with their property is contractors. So that's the other angle, is to go and put all the things that shut things down, put restrictions, on and on contractors. Yeah, I know we're gonna, it's a good segue. I know we're going to talk about the recent Senate bill changes. Doesn't change a whole lot this go around, but it's just another little thing, another little restriction, another little option for the insurance company to lawyer up and state that, well, the homeowner didn't have this and that in the policy, and the contractor didn't use the right 14-point font on his paperwork, so therefore this whole thing's null and void. It's no good, no contract, you're in trouble, blah 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 blah. I mean, the restrictions just get piled on, and none of it is in the favor of the homeowner. So it's weird because I don't, you know, maybe we should go sit in some special session sometime when they're talking about all this stuff, just to see how many adverse, you know, how many opposing people are there actually trying to, you know, go after the benefits of policyholders and homeowners, you know, attorneys, groups, you know, things of that nature, because the insurance companies clearly have all the money to fight it and do whatever they want to do. Lobby.
You know what I wonder, because another large industry is the mortgage industry, right? You know, the mortgage industry is loaning money for these homes to be purchased. They're not going to loan on an asset, you know, unless it's insured.
Correct.
And if something goes sideways and there is a catastrophic event, and the insurance company doesn't fulfill their obligation, well, then what happens? The mortgage industry is affected, and homes are, look at all the fires in California, for example, the hurricanes and the floods. Like, people, I'm not paying for a home that I can't live in, that I can't get repaired by the insurance company. So now the mortgage industry is affected, in the banking industry, and now you start seeing foreclosures go up, you know, and it all trickles back down to the homeowner, because the mortgage industry is going to write that debt off, and it's the homeowner that's now left with a foreclosure, you know, when the insurance company failed them, the mortgage company did not hold the insurance company accountable, and now the homeowner is stuck with a foreclosure on their record, you know. So it goes back, who's protecting the homeowner?
Yep. And then, you know, and I mean, I think we could go on and on and on, but then, you know, the bad epidemic in Florida is that the insurance companies go, okay, we'll use the recent, you know, catastrophes as a way to leave the state, but we won't just leave the state. We'll just take all of the policies that underpaid or you know, aren't paying us enough, and the bad policies, you know, and we'll sell those off. We'll write those off, file bankruptcy on those. But then we'll just open up a new sub-agency. We'll call it, you know, Slide, for example. Not thinking that's anything that we don't know around here. So new company called Slide. We'll take all the good policies. We'll move them over there. And all of this bad stuff over here, we'll just let go. And the state goes, okay, you know, and that's the other, it's crazy. That's the other bad thing that started to happen. That's why we got all these little pop-off companies. They all are a subsidiary of a big company that all they did was change their names.
Right.
And create and take all the good policies and take them with them and leave all the crap for everybody else, and, you know, for citizens and for the state to deal with, you know. It's awful. It's just absolutely awful.
You mentioned the House bill. So House Bill 715. Let's get into that. So this was actually just signed by our Governor DeSantis on 5/19, and it was officially issued yesterday. So this is, you know, I would say breaking news, because this has been on the docket. So this bill, it's, you know, just when I, you know, just look up the summary of the bill. So the main things that pop out, but there's definitely more to it, where it's saying homeowners have the right to cancel contracts within 10 days of execution of official start date, whichever comes first, if the contract is entered within 180 days of a state of emergency declaration, so like a major name storm. The bill also introduces requirements for roofing contracts, mandating specific language be included in bold type of at least 14-point font to inform homeowners of their cancellation rights. So Wes, what's this bill really about? What are your thoughts on it, and what does it mean for homeowners and for roofing contractors?
Well, on the surface, you know, they're trying to put protection in for the homeowners that have gone through a major catastrophe event. So anytime now that we have a named storm, the state goes under emergency planning, or you know, emergency you know, awareness, or whatever the heck it's called. But in any case, then when that happens, it's in effect for 180 days. It doesn't matter if even if the governor comes in and says, okay, we're not in a state of emergency anymore, 90 days later, it's still an effective per insurance for 180 days. And what they're trying to protect from, well, it's certainly in favor of the insurance company, but there's a part of it that I think could be worked out well to protect from. And then that's all the storm chasers that come in from, you know, Texas, North Carolina, Colorado, everywhere else, unlicensed, unverified, unvetted, and they all travel here because it's you know, shooting fish in a barrel. Everybody needs help. So they come in, they sell the deal with no license and all that kind of stuff, and then the homeowner's left with whatever labor company picks it up at the end. You know, these guys are long gone by, you know, 6 months later when the claim gets settled. And then the homeowner is stuck with using that company, and they really don't even know who the company is because that company and that labor company aren't even attached to each other in any sort of way. And so a lot of homeowners end up with either bad work or money taken or this, that, or the other because they were in a state of stress and somebody came in and took advantage of them. Totally agree with working out provisions to where people can't come into Florida unlicensed, hook up with a guy with a license. There's all that kind of stuff that goes on. Sell, take off, and then, leave the homeowner just trying to figure out how they're going to get their work done, with somebody that's not even here, doesn't even know the building codes, anything else. So on the surface, it protects people because if I sign something, I have 10 days. If we're in a state of emergency, I have 10 days to be able to cancel it. So I've got time to cool off and think about it and go, did I sign up with the right company? Let me vet them. Let me check them out. Oh, they're not even on Facebook. Oh, they don't even have a website. Okay, let's get them canceled. Got no problem with that. Because a legit company like us, they can check us out. Okay, they're local. They've got reviews. They've worked with homeowners. Give us a call. We answer the phone. I got, we check all the boxes. But what is really crazy then is 10 days after or 10 days within commencement of work. So even 10 days prior, if I'm now 6 months later and I say, it's time to do your work, and we're within 10 days and we're still within that 180 days from the time of state of emergency went in, they can still cancel me at that point. And by then we've put in labor, we've put in time, we've put in effort, we've put in a lot of things to get even to that point.
Right.
So we've got expenses now that they can just go, oh, nope, cancel it. Nothing we can do about it. And they can choose somebody else. So I don't know how well that stands up with contracts and other things, but, the long and the short of the contract language, that's what they're trying to protect is just from, the bad apples taking advantage of homeowners during a state of emergency.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's official. It is now a bill and integrated. So, our advice to other roofing contractors is, just take care of your customers, keep them well updated along the way with great communication. And hopefully, when it's time to start the work, you're not going to get a homeowner who takes advantage of this. Like, hey, I don't want to use you. I changed my mind after all that work. So just the communication, transparency, take care of your customers, and it shouldn't affect you. But, we'll see how that goes. It's brand new. All right, let's transition into real estate. We love build to rent. It's actually something that we do as a company. It's a growing vertical for a lot of developers to build homes, specifically new family homes, new single family homes, with the intention of turning them into a rental, not just putting them on the market for a buyer. Obviously, there's still the overwhelming majority of homes being built. That is the model, but build to rent is a growing thing that a lot of developers, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of real estate investors are doing. So we have an article here. Build-to-rent developers take over entire neighborhoods across the U.S. So the top 5 metro areas where this is taking place in is Phoenix, Dallas, Atlanta, Austin, and Charlotte. The article highlights that the rapid growth of build-to-rent communities is to offset affordable housing issues. These developments offer single-family homes with amenities appealing to renters wanting more space. Phoenix alone had a 164% increase in build-to-rent models going back to 2023, with over 12,000 units being built. That's a really high number. Dallas, 10,500 units. Nationally, there's 110,000 build-to-rent units that are being built or being offered right now. And the play for this is to offset affordable housing. So this is an opportunity to build a single-family home. A homeowner who prefers that over an apartment building, but then to offer that in a place where it is still price competitive from apartment living to single family living. And it's a good market, good business for developers, for real estate investors to also, win at it and, get nice returns. Well, what do you think of this build to rent growing trend and how you think it affects us locally in Jacksonville as well?
Well, we'll start with locally. The build-to-rent market is growing. You saw it everywhere after pandemic 2020. It was such a small section of the marketplace, and then after it just skyrocketed. The inside of this article from Realtor.com, I think they could have done a little bit better of a job of painting an authentic picture. The narrative is that these institutional investors that are buying these are somehow inherently evil, right? They are for-profit companies, and they are building with the end in mind to put a product that is affordable for the average person. Are they taking over neighborhoods? No. They're building neighborhoods is what they're doing. They are buying land, they are building a product, and they are putting tenants in their product, right? That's what they're doing. There are occasions where, say, a major builder, I won't say anybody's name because I don't have any data to go, like they overbuild inside of a neighborhood and they'll sell off 10, 15, 20 homes to an investor, which may be one of the big dogs, or it could be a smaller. They're building homes that they would like to sell to Scott. Scott can't buy it, so they're going to sell it to somebody who can, right? The problem isn't the build-to-rent model. The problem is affordability. The Pretiums and the Progress and the American Home for Rent and all of these guys that are doing this on a massive scale, they're not the enemy. The enemy is mortgage rates, affordability, and the cost of living.
100%.
It continues to go up. So they've found a way to help, but also profit when everybody else is just sitting around talking about, man, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. You know, what do they say? Atlanta, the average home in Atlanta is $410,000. So the average income required to live in that $410,000 home is $109,000 a year. The average income in Atlanta is not $109,000 a year. So where are you going to live? Like,
100%.
you know, it's all they're taking away all of the opportunities for homeowners or home buyers to bid. That's not what's happening. It's not. You know, back in, you go after 2008, 2009, there were bidding wars where investors. And then as you got into 2015, even today, I want to buy this investment property. I'm probably going to get in a bidding war with another investor or maybe another homeowner, right? That does happen, but not these big scales. You know, you're not losing out on an opportunity to buy a home. There are plenty of new construction homes that D.R. Horton, KB, all the guys would love to sell you, but not everybody can.
Well, it begs the question though: who's controlling the rent prices? So, if everything gets taken over as build-to-rent, so if you want to go upgrade your home or whatever, there's going to be less homes for you to go trade into. So now that price is going to be even more ridiculous. Who cares what the rates are? I can't buy a home that's already owned by these guys because they're renting it out. So land is hard to find. And then all of a sudden, if they decide to raise the rates and not make it affordable anymore, how's that serving anybody's interest? So,
It doesn't, right? And that's not what they do, right? They are in the business of having maximum occupancy as frequently as possible, right? So they are constantly evaluating what they can charge. Yeah, of course they're going to push it to the limit, right? What can they get away with? But they're not going to take it from a $2,000 a month. I think Jacksonville right now, it's like $1,900 a month is the average rent. So nobody is going to go from that average to $3,000 at renewal because it's going to be vacant, right? So they still have to price it to what the market will dictate and what it will allow. Now I have seen, small portfolio owners, 10, 15, 20 houses. Yeah, they're really greedy. They're trying to maximize their position because they bought poorly. So they need it to cash flow and they'll stretch every dime they can. When they're doing these big, 100, 110 home build to rent neighborhoods, like they build them in such a way. Now, quality of product, we could have that conversation for hours. Is it any better? Is it any worse than what you're going to get if you go build something yourself? Maybe not. But they're building it to where it's like, okay, we need this amount of rent. We're going to put X number of increase year over year, which keeps up with the market. And then once they outprice themselves, and they got to slow down.
What happened to rent tone? Remember that was a thing?
It's still a thing. In a down market, a lot of sellers, these are usually one-off or small portfolio owners. They'll do a rent-to-own because they know they can't get top market value. So here's an ability to, it's a lease option. So you have the option to, first right of refusal, You know, so those are definitely coming back. You know, in the current real estate market, you know, they ebb and flow depending on if it's a buyer or seller's market. But I would say for, you know, the rental prices, definitely market's going to dictate. You know, these developers are building these. You know, they can charge like, you know, these exorbitant rents, but if no one's renting them, then obviously they're gonna have to, you know, change their pricing strategy.
Yep.
And so Jacksonville, just our Northeast Florida market, we need more homes for owners, and we need more homes for renters. You know, it's just we're just lacking that. So it's a strong thing. I'm surprised Jacksonville wasn't in the top 5. I bet you they're in the top 10 at least if we expanded the article.
Yeah, the last time I looked at it, I think we were like 7 or 8. Because what were we talking about the other day? 11,000 homes are required.
Oh, yeah, short, per year to be built.
Per year.
Yeah, to
What
meet
did that
up
guy
like.
say? 43% of Jacksonville is renters.
Sure.
Is that what that number was that we just heard last week? From what's his name? We were in that
Oh yeah, the
flight.
yeah.
That
It's a
thing.
large number.
It's a large number.
Yeah.
It's a lot higher than I thought it was. You
Yeah.
know.
The other part of this conversation is just the change in the world. You know, we're going from an owner's economy to a renter's economy, and especially for younger people. And so the younger people, their flex is flexibility. A lot of younger people, they don't want to be locked in. Like, man, buying a house locked in for 30 years, and I got to stay here. You know, they don't know what they want to do in 2 years. They don't know if they want to stay in this area, if they want to move to a metropolitan area, or if they want to do something else. So there's a lot of people who are changing. You know, a lot of people aren't even owning cars anymore because you don't have to. You know, there's public transportation, there's Uber, there's all these. You can get, you know, like James, you can get on your little scooter bike and and go, you know, work that way. So the shift from owner to renter is definitely happening, especially with the younger generation. You're the youngest in this group. You know, what do you think of this idea of the shift?
A few things. One is, for sure, I wrote down that little quote, you know, flexibility. It's a good quote because it's real. I think most young people, they don't want to necessarily be anchored down to something, but they do want to own something. But in this economy, ain't nobody owning nothing right now. And so what I found, at least among my friends, is we have conversations all the time about owning stuff, but the means to own is just so great that, I mean, a lot of, you know, some of my new married couples are, new married friends are staying with their parents to save up money to eventually, you know, buy land and do stuff with and all that kind of stuff. But when I say like the 18 to 25-year-olds, even when they talk, like, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and it actually was, it seemed cool in my head, but now that I'm 30, I'm like, yeah, it seems I wouldn't even want. They're like, yeah, I don't want a home. I don't want a permanent address. Man, I just kind of just want to, you know, to have a backpack, and I want to be able to go to.
You wants to be a nomad.
Yeah, literally. And so I was like, it sounded awesome, like from an adventurous standpoint. But once you got a little bit of some responsibility, you're like, hold up.
Yeah.
I need to know where I'm going to lay my head at night. I need to know, you know, where my income is coming from. I need to know where. So some of that stuff is cool. But one thing I would say also, I personally think it's going to be very difficult once we move to this space of, renters. And I think Grant Cardone says it all the time. He's like, man, the next 5 to 10 years we'll be in a renters economy. No one's going to want to buy just because of interest rates and all the stuff within market research. But one of the things I'm even looking at as I'm 32 and I want to buy, my goal is to buy like land and to have a homestead. That's my goal.
Nice.
Like I want to have like horses, goats, chickens. Like I know I'm a bit be close enough to the city to go and hang out and like. and
You
do
go
my
out
thing.
to
Farm
McLennan.
Life
You go out to
2 Farm. I
McLennan.
didn't get that one.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know,
get that
right?
one.
It's, you know, because I'm a city boy at heart, but I love what that has. But one of the things I have to understand that comes with sacrifice, and comes with sacrifice of your will, sacrifice of flexibility, sacrifice of I need to hone in to something and to create a portfolio so much so that I can be able to give something, you know, and create legacy. And so with flexibility, man, do you really have legacy? Do you have long-term roots into something that you can say, man, we built this thing from this to that? And so from a young person's point of view, yes, for sure. I think we need more build-to-rent homes just because of the economy. But also, man, my fear is if you don't own something, you never really take care of it. And so with those places, man, do they just become dump sites? Do they become the next projects? Do they just become the next, low income property just because people are maintaining? Because if you own something, you tend to take care.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
Yeah, there is some of that. There is some of that as well too. But Scott, when you talk about the young people, you mentioned Grant. I don't know when you jumped on Grant's fanboy club.
I'm not. Hold on. He just said something. I just
But what is Grant doing? Invest in me so I can help you make money, right? That's what he's doing. When you look at even the one-off investor, right? They're going to private money, they're going to a bank, they're going to the 401k, they're going somewhere to get help to do the next thing. If these young people in that early 20 group, yes, we know the affordability is an issue, but if 3 or 4 of them were to get together and pull their resources and to purchase an asset and turn that into an income opportunity, and then they did it again, and then they did it again. Nobody's teaching these young people that, and if they want to get involved with somebody like, Cordone Enterprises or whatever he's calling himself these days, right? They can't afford that because it's tens of thousands of dollars, right? But what they could do is align with somebody, in their local community that has had some success with investing and can get some mentorship and some coaching and training. It's like, 3 or 4 of you guys can get together, form an LLC, a partnership, and go buy a house together, and then you could do it again, and then you could do it again. And then by the time you're 35, you have, between the 4 of you, you got 10, 15 pieces of property. It happens all the time. You just don't hear about it that way because everybody looks at it from I need to buy so I have this thing that I can live in forever. The narrative is like, how do I buy so I can earn income forever, right? That's a whole different thought process that we don't teach. We don't teach in this world today.
Yeah, it all goes down to what is your goals.
Yep.
And if young people, if they're, it's goals and equity. And the American dream is ownership. I used to say the American dream is entrepreneurship. It is that, but I think if you actually boil it down, it is ownership because you can, I used to say the American dream is owning a home, which is part of it. It is kind of entrepreneurship, but I think ownership is the best way to kind of describe it. And if young people are beginning, I don't say brainwashed, but if the narrative is teaching them like you want flexibility, that's great. Well, then build equity in something else. If you're not going to build it in assets, build it in something else. Build a brand. Build a digital business or whatever. But the great thing about real estate is it's tangible. You can actually physically, put your hand on it. You can own land. You can own buildings and things like that. So it's what is your goals in life? What are you trying to do? I believe, if you want to separate yourself from, the masses, the general population, it is a path through ownership. Real estate is one of the best paths to do it. And definitely get around people. Every city has real estate investor groups. They got people who are like-minded who can kind of guide you. And Will is giving good advice. We need to teach more young people how to own things. Whether it is homes or even if it is businesses or whatever it may be. And that's going to give you that freedom. So, if you own a home, pay it off in 30 years. Who knows what your trek in life is going to be in 30 years. But there's always opportunities to turn into a rental, to do something else that you just can't do if you never own anything. If you're just renting, you can never get that income back.
If you were 18, this is for all you guys to answer. If you were 18 to 30 years old, what would you, and you had a little bit of income or you could do something, what would you
I would be buying a home every couple of years.
Okay.
If I was 18, single, no family, every couple of years I'd be buying a home. So I've done it a few times. Obviously, I've been a real estate investor for a while. Because once you get married and you got kids, and it's you're not able to. You still can to some degree, which I've been able to do. But if you have the ability, get into it because man, it's going to pay off so much in the end. It's just that that time compounding theory of you get the appraised value, you get the rental income, you get the tax write-offs. So all that's going to help create more equity, more money in the bank, more income for you, better lifestyle, set you up for a much better place to be in the future.
No. Will, Wes, what y'all invest in?
No, man, it's just interesting. The whole conversation because I think it could be fun to talk about on maybe another episode where we dive into the formula for that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're a builder. Our company, we're builders. You know, so in a sense, we're involved in the rent to build the rent market, and yet, you know, as we do that, you know, we haven't really talked about how to formulate that for everybody, maybe in the company to win. So, you know, what a cool concept to maybe put something together like that to where, you know, we could teach that, do classes on it, get other people involved.
It'd be amazing.
You know, I rather own a, you know, fraction of something worth something that pays me a little bit of money each month compared to 100% on nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and sometimes people's entry point needs to be very small just to learn how to get into that, how to start networking, how to start working with people, put something together. So, you know, there's a lot of different things as we were talking, they're rattling through my mind as far as the potential of things that could be done.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, where we could, you know, as a company, we're always out there looking to make people's lives better and advance. And I think not only can we always do that in our own company, but, you know, we could put something together for the whole market. I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I just looked up.
that down.
I would go with Scott. You know, if you're young, figure out a way to start buying a piece of real estate. So when I was in my early 20s, bought my first house for like $82,000, right? And made some horrible decisions after that. I don't own that home anymore, right? But it's currently owned by someone. I just pulled it up. It's currently owned by someone that is using it as a rental property. And they're renting it for $1,600 a month.
Wow.
All right. So my mortgage back then, all in, was like $700 a month. You know, so just think of
The long-term play there.
the long term, right?
Yeah.
So I would own it. I'd have paid it off years ago if I still had, right? So if you bought today, and it might be hard to do as an individual, but as a group of people, if you buy today, nothing is going to happen with that asset except for it's going to appreciate over time.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't buy today and you decide 10 years from now that you want to go buy and get started, it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So buy it today, hold it as long as you can, make as much as you can for it, you know, and I'm mad now. So I'm going to.
Yeah, that's torturing yourself because I do that a lot. I look at a lot of my old addresses that I owned and sold. I'm like, oh my goodness, I would have over $1 million more equity had I held on to these properties.
Yeah.
But
Well, they say you never lose until you sell.
yeah.
Right.
You know, that's.
Jeez.
We got one more topic. This is an open discussion. It's kind of about the power of networking and branding. And when those two kind of merge together, it's a beautiful thing. Will, you went to a networking event yesterday. You go to a lot of them as a company. We go to a lot of them. I think it was the Christian Chamber of Commerce,
Northeast Florida Christian Chamber of Commerce, wonderful organization here. It's a mixture of nonprofit and for-profit companies kind of coming together to expand kingdom business here in the Northeast Florida area. It was a good time. They do something every month. It was good. What was really cool is so there's about 50 of us there yesterday, and 5 of the 50 had been guests on the podcast that we do here at DeVore. So that was cool. So just kind of seeing the faces again and meeting, and now it's the branding, right? It's the introduction. So the guests. Hey, this is Will. I was on his podcast. Oh, that's you. Yep. And it's just, what do y'all do again? Well, we do, construction, real estate, roofing. Start having those conversations, and it's fun. It's all ties in. The more, what do they say? You're never more than one handshake away from a life-changing opportunity.
Yeah, we love networking, and just as a company, as we've kind of changed our thought process from a construction services company, even though that's what we do a lot of, and that's what we're licensed into, a marketing and sales company. And as we went all in on branding and marketing and media and all these things, not even that long ago, and when you go out to a networking event and people recognize you, and it just adds so much extra, equity, recognition, stock to the name. And it's a long game. I know we've been talking recently about how, sales is king, sales trumps branding. because obviously getting sales in the door is extremely important. That pays
100%.
it pays for branding. When you think about it. I just remember even just like going to the bank across the street,
remember
across the
that.
river, and the guy's like, "Hey, I seen your podcast." Another roofing guy.
That guy, yeah.
And so, we're not like famous like Mr. Beast by any
Yeah.
means, but just to have people kind of
Not yet.
recognize who you are and everything, and seeing the payoff on it.
Yeah.
So you're obviously you're the brains and everything behind the operation of media and marketing. When Will comes back and shares that experience with us, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, man, just do more of this. I mean, obviously it is do more of that, but what's your takeaway right now?
In honest transparency, I would say when Will was like, man, we got 5 people, I was like, in my mind, in my heart, I was like, man, we can do so much more. It's always like one of those things with branding. It's so, man, it's such a thing where you just have to dominate the market. And sometimes I'm definitely a quality over quantity guy. I probably have like paralysis when it comes to that. Like I really do. He's like, I cringe. I'm like, I just want it to look good. It may take longer, but if it looks good, it'll be all right. But it's one of those things where it's like, man, I believe in what we're doing. I believe in our messaging. I believe in our brand. And it's like, all right, we just got to let's double our output. We may lose a little bit in the quality right now until we build to where the structure and the systems where our quality is created. But one of the things I would say when it comes to branding, man, I was up to 2:00 last night talking to somebody like specifically about this is the story you tell. Like, is the story you telling? Can people see their story in your story? And if they can't see their story in your story, they're going to do 2 things. They're going to work simultaneously to build your story and to build their story. And then ultimately, you will never get buy-in. You always say, man, what's that person doing, man? Why can't that person just buy in? Da-da. But they're building a story. We just don't know about it.
Right.
Until we know about it. You know what I mean? But then there's also an issue where if they see their story in your story, you can never get rid of them. They're the people like if you go broke, they're there with you. If you go to the moon, they're there with you. And so the big thing with branding is, and this for any company, is your story big enough for other people's stories to exist, and not only to just hang out, but to thrive. That story has to be big. That story has to be compelling. That story has to have leaders in it that can literally function at the highest level in what they're doing and still find significant purpose in sacrificing day to day to make sure that story happens. Like, that doesn't take a year. That won't take 2 years. It takes time, effort, and intentionality. And so when I think about the story that we're writing for Jacksonville and for entrepreneurs, man, I think it's so compelling that it's daunting and it's scary. I think it's so compelling that it's like, man, like it's almost like, man, should we even do this thing because it's so big? But I would say because it's so big, man, we have to do it. Because we know what we know, we have to tell it. And people have to get this. And so it's worth paying for years, and it's worth the agony of getting behind the camera and getting better, the agony of deleting videos and putting them back up, the agony of 1 view versus 1,000 views. Man, just 1 subscriber to 10,000 subscribers. Like, whatever that like numerical number is, you have to do it for the story. And the story will tell itself. And when that story tells itself, it's over. You know.
And it's the authenticity too.
100%.
Because there's a lot of great storytellers out there, but then when you meet them face to face,
They're
they're
as fake as the doorknob.
right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the networking event. So the guest speaker yesterday was Mr. Lockwood Holmes, president of Holmes Equity. So he was Holmes Lumber years ago. His father started it. They sold it to what is now Builders First Source nationwide. Right, took an exit, rebranded himself to go with a faith-based model, late 90s, and rebuilt and built 16, 17 companies. And he's talking about leadership, and he's talking about what drives him, and he's talking about how he interviews and how he leads and all of these things. And I'm listening to him. So I've met Lockwood. I've interviewed with Lockwood. I got hired by Lockwood, and one of his companies is Adina, a wonderful organization. And as I'm sitting there and I'm listening how he operates, I knew it to be true because I personally experienced it. And when I interviewed with him for a position with inside Adina, he what was important to him was who I was as a human being, where I was at on my faith walk. And I was able to share that with the table. And I was like, I don't know if any of y'all have actually ever met him, but it's very rare that you get somebody to stand in front of a room to share their story, and it's actually legit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was able to like, no, what he's saying is true. And then somebody asked a question during a Q&A, and they're like, how were you able to do this? And he says, I didn't compromise. I knew where I wanted to go, and I didn't compromise. And I just went. And it was cool, but that's the story, and I think that can be every single one of our stories is like, okay, where are we going to go today? We're not going to compromise who we are. This is what we are. This is how we do what we do. And this is the why,
Yeah, that's awesome. And I heard something somewhere. You said it so well. It's to be a successful company, the future of the company and the future of each person needs to be congruent. And so it's just like, their story and the company's story. And, with our focus, we talk a lot about metrics and numbers, these really, awesome targets that we're shooting after. When it all comes down to it, it's like, we truly care about everyone. It's not, hey, let's make this guy rich. Let's make only these people and everything. It's a true, authentic, wanting everyone to win. We're all bought in, tied into the same thing. And entrepreneurship is kind of scary. There's that Hormozy quote that keeps saying, Hormozy's been dropping gems, man. I don't know what Hormozy is doing, but everything that dude puts out, I'm like, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And he said, entrepreneurship, you get into it because you know it's going to be hard. But then when you get into it, it's 1,000 times harder than the hard that you thought it was going to be. But when I don't even remember how you said it, but basically I think you just said it's worth it. It's worth doing it. It's worth going out there, and that's what we're doing. We're fighting for it, and that's why I know where we're going. If we're going to get there, is because we're all bought in. We got the same vision. We're congruent in a lot of things. Us at this table, we're all people of faith as well, and it's just. It's exciting. So I'm glad that we're doing, how we do this with our DeVore Live, because we're also kind of like documenting the journey
For
more
sure.
or less. We're not like new. We didn't just start yesterday. We've been around, officially like almost 9 years, incorporated. I've been an entrepreneur for, quite some time. We're all entrepreneurs here at the table. We all have our strengths and everything. And, we're just trying to bring value to Jacksonville, trying to bring value, hope, inspiration, motivation, encouragement to the people who are watching this, just because we know the journey isn't easy. But, man, when they see people who are doing it, not that we ever claim to be experts. We do think we're experts in a lot of things, but, we're just really just trying to share our stories, our testimonies, and everything that we've done to get to where we're at, and then as we're documenting to the places we haven't been to yet. So we appreciate everyone tuning in to DeVore Live, all things real estate, business and life in Jacksonville and beyond. Until next time, like, subscribe, tell your friend, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your sister, brother, cousin to make sure you watch it. Check out DeVoreCapital.com to learn more about the company, the sponsor, and all the great services that we have to offer. So until then, until next time, peace and love, and we'll see you then.
See you.